Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Dick.
I'm bidding a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Monday edition of Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep. Spencer Israel here with Joel Elconin and Dennis Dick on the show today. We're going to be joined by Sean Udall at 8:35, the tech stock strategist. He'll give us his bearish view on the market. But before then, we have a lot to discuss. We're going to talk about the couple of stocks that are moving after or ahead of the Russell Rebalance on Friday. Not too many, but there were a couple that caught Dennis's eye. Talk about those. We'll talk about the continued sell-off in tech on Friday and some M&A news in the food sector, specifically in Campbell's, General Mills, and Kraft Heinz. I mentioned Sean will be our guest today. Joel, what are the S&Ps doing this morning right now?
We have followed through on that week 4:30 to 5 session where we sold off 3 points. Have not seen the closing price from Friday at $59.50. Your pre-market high is $27.58. We crept into the 30 handle. $27.39.25 is your pre-market low. Trying to get off the mat down, now only 13.25. The number of the day, the number of the week, and the number of the month on the downside is last week's low at $27.35.75. Crude continuing that unbelievable rally from Friday, trading up 38 cents at 68.96, retracing a lot of that move from the high that we had over $72. Gold in the green, not by much though, 20 cents here. Silver's mixed in the red, down 4 cents. And we'll do a little Bitcoin segment here. Bitcoin trying to put a bottom in, up $185 at 6,240. Dennis, where are you buying Bitcoin?
I all of a sudden feel like I should be buying Bitcoin here. So interesting, CNBC Fast Money. I watch it because, you get good. They move stocks. So you have to watch it if you're a trader because, sometimes they can move a stock 2 or 3% just because they're mentioning it positively, especially on some of these pitches. So, I do watch CNBC Fast Money, and it's funny. They've been running bullish segments, and we've talked about it in Bitcoin. They've been running bullish segments for like 2 months straight. Every time, BK gets on there and they're talking bullish on crypto, bullish crypto, bullish crypto. It's like I never see a bear on CNBC Fast Money talking bearish about crypto. So I tweet at them every once in a while, give them some heat because obviously, it hasn't been working out. I mean, it's been going straight down. And, I just would like to see a little bit more balance. I'd like to see some bears get on CNBC Fast Money and talk bearish about crypto because there's definitely some bears out there too. I mean, me and, we've kind of been bearish pretty much on the show all the way up and all the way down. Like I said, I was right.
Speak for yourself.
Or I was wrong.
Speak for yourself
all the way up. I was wrong from 2,000 to 20,000 because I really wasn't a believer. And I've been right all the way back down. But I'm not sitting here bragging about it because I was wrong all the way up. I was definitely not all over this. And I didn't trade it all because like I said before, I don't know how to value it. But long story short is on Friday night, they came out and they had a funeral for Bitcoin and said they weren't going to talk about it anymore on CNBC Fast Money. So literally, after running like 50 consecutive bullish segments, they come out on CNBC Fast Money and bury it and say we're not going to talk about it anymore. I was like, is this for real? For real? You just told me to buy it last night. Now you're telling me that it's done. So anyways, is this the CNBC bottom for Bitcoin? That's the question. Now that they're out. Not CNBC Fast Money.
Okay. It's kind of interesting because they had our good buddy Todd Flash Gordon on to speak about it. And he said he was short in the interim and that he had a short position. I could see what he was leading on there. But he thought, now I didn't see the whole segment, he thought that it could recover to 2,000 to 10,000 in 2019. So not a big rally. I'm going to ping Todd this week, see if we can get him on the show. And I kind of like when people, can have a position in something, like a short position, but also, be looking for that long entry. So we got to get Todd on again. Yeah, he's always good here. We talked about that level earlier in the week, almost all week. We talked about that 6,700. And boy, oh boy, did that turn out to be the major resistance. So if you want to buy it on strength and you're not trying to pick a bottom here, any break, let's just call it 7,000, right? Because it's a nice round number. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 highs right in the 6,800 to 7,000 level. That's where you want to own if it could break.
Can we see the chart on this? Because I'm not seeing the chart. Spencer, get the Bitcoin up here. It's so tough. Spencer's sleeping at the wheel here. It's Monday morning, so
there's a delay.
There we go.
There's a delay on the video.
When you spit numbers, I don't see a chart. It's tough to understand.
You know what? I redid my trade station to show my charts, and I didn't save it, so I had to rebuild everything this morning. But I'll work on that today. We got the daily chart up there. Spencer's showing the daily, and you see the small ranges and the bumps here, Dennis. Do you see that? That's right at 6,800.
That's the big level.
Yeah, that's the level on the upside. Level on the downside, 6,000. It took it out on Friday, went to 59.65.
We're back over.
Yeah, and now we're back over that. So, you can do the JC Peretz play or any kind of simple technical play. If you're trying to hear along at 62.35, you're out at 59.65. So, yeah, I mean, from a pure technical standpoint, the old reversal off that low. But
that's all you got. I mean, that's the only way. And people can throw out $100,000 price targets or $1 million price targets or $0 price targets on this thing. But, there is still, you could, and a lot of people say, yeah, there's no value, there's no intrinsic value, there's nothing. I don't believe that either. I think there is some value for cryptocurrency, like I said, potentially in, third world countries where the currencies are very unstable. So I think there is some fundamental value there. I can't calculate it, though. There's nothing to calculate. There's no cash flows, nothing. There's no way to really figure out, an exact value. So I think anybody who's throwing out a price target on that is just randomly. It's just guessing. I mean, all of it is guessing to a certain extent, but they're really throwing darts at the wall if they're just throwing out price targets. So, but you do have technicals. That is the only thing you have really to evaluate the price of Bitcoin. And the technicals actually say if it can hold above that 59.60, maybe we can rally for a bit. So I have not said anything bullish on Bitcoin here. I don't know if I've ever said anything bullish on Bitcoin here on the show. But at this point, I can see your argument, Joel, for, maybe try it. If it takes out 59.50, you get the hell out. So maybe as a technical trade here, try it long. But I would not want to own it below 5,900.
Yeah, no, it's there, and we'll keep an eye on it. It's always fun to follow. Dennis, nice ink over the weekend in Lightspeed from the Lightspeed platform. Let's give a big shout out.
I had Reuters too. You don't mention the Reuters article, but
you're in Reuters, really? You're in Reuters too?
Yeah, I talked to a reporter last week just about the Russell Rebalance, and I was in Reuters too, but. I noticed it was just funny. I actually just Googled. Sometimes I just Google myself just to see. Do
you really?
I have, yeah. You Google it under news because I knew there was an article out. So the easiest way to find is just actually Google my own name. It's kind of weird, but I Google it under news, and then I can find the article that the Reuters reporter. So I was looking for the Reuters article, and then I'm like, what is this Lightspeed thing? So I read the Lightspeed article, and it's like, oh, they listened to my show because they quoted a whole bunch of stuff that I said on the show on Friday. You want to read it?
The quote here
from the Russell, yeah. They quoted me a couple times. They were describing what the Russell Rebalance trade is, and basically just quoted me from the show on Friday. So it's like, hey, we got a fan out there. Lightspeed's listening.
Let's. Well, I want to give a big shout out to all of our Lightspeed listeners. Let us know who you are in the chat and everything. We'd love to do anything we can to help you out. Dennis basically said 10 years ago, it was a slam dunk. You bought the ads, sold the deletes. It was a slam dunk, and everyone would have their best trading days of the year because the ads would all go up and the deletes would all go down, he said.
Easy money back in the day.
Nothing is easy anymore because it's predictable, and the trades get crowded. They're very predictable. I've seen instances where the ads get killed a few minutes before the close and the deletes go up. You just got to go with the flow on these days. If you see the ads leaking going into the close, it usually gets worse. And if you see them going up, it usually gets better. So go with the trend. So, Dennis, you made that quote on Friday.
Friday morning on the show.
Friday morning, and do you have?
And I traded it. I did trade the Russell Friday night. and it was crickets. There really wasn't a lot of movement. I had all the ads and deletes and looking at them. I had a couple trades off it. I could tell you about that Home Depot, which isn't actually an ad or a delete, but sometimes if, there's 3,000 components, sometimes the big guns just move off of it too. And if you look at the Home Depot chart in the last 5 minutes of the day, check it out. Went from 340, we're trading at almost $200, $199, just collapses in the last 10 minutes. And that's because there's a huge sell imbalance. Somebody just getting out. Maybe it was somebody, just adjusting, or whatever, but it's an institutional trader, probably just huge sell order. Sells stock all the way down, closes at 197.41, losing $2.50 in the last basically 5 minutes. I bought at the end of the day there. Actually sold it after hours because it bounced right back up to the 198. And I've been nibbling a little bit this morning. I was trading the 196 handle. I've been nibbling because typically these moves come back. Usually when you see Russell moves, there's multiple plays. So the old school plays was just like I said, buy the ad, sell the deletes, and then, cover on the Friday right at the end. Because usually they do bounce back on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the following week. Just didn't have a lot of movement. So if I'm playing it the old school way, though, it would say to be long Home Depot here, hedge it with something. I mean, the market collapses, Home Depot is not going to go up. So usually hedged trades where, maybe you should sell the SPY against it. But Home Depot is, not down quite as much as the market, was trading up. So that's your classic fade on Russell Rebalance Day.
Yeah, but Dennis, I mean, for that kind of selling pressure, it hasn't got a bounce yet. Usually you see those, almost respond immediately in the after hours in the pre-market. And this one taking out 198, multiple lows of that area. 198 is going to be your resistance. You had 4 lows in a row going back to last week. So that's going to be your resistance now. Friday's low was at 197.17. And if you take that out, folks, you don't have much. Oh, boy. You don't have much until, well, I want to say, man, when's the last time we went below 195.01? That was your June 8th high.
It's an ugly candle.
June 8th low.
Again, this is why technicals are only one tool in your toolbox. Try to put other tools in your toolbox. If you're a pure technical trader, I think it's difficult. I think some of your technicians do well, but I think you got to use other tools. There's a reason, a method behind the madness here, a reason behind the sell-off, and that was probably some big seller just because of something to do with the Russell, whether it was rebalancing on their, the higher components. I can't tell you the reasoning for that sell, but I could tell you it was because had a lot of different institutional action there at the close. These moves typically do retrace themselves. Now, that being said, it's an ugly candle, so pure technicians say that is a breakdown. I'll tell you there was a reason for that, though, so I'm not a pure believer that this was, fundamental information driving this down. I think it was just something to do with the Russell. I don't know what, but because it wasn't deleted, but it was something to do with the Russell. So,
and any other good moves?
Typically do retrace.
Any other good moves in that?
QTM was classic one. And this was one of the only ones I see. If you can see, it's leaking. It was delete it out, and you can see over the course of the last basically year, it's just been going straight down, but really accelerating here over the course of the last week. $3 week and a half ago, then it's $250, and then just collapsing here. So, and then at the close it's $220, then gaps down on the closing print because a huge seller dumping it out of the index, trying to trace it down. It closes at $206. That's a classic trade. I bought the close. And that was one of the only ones I saw really gapping down. It's a $2 stock. I mean, you're not going to make a killing on it, but I bought the close because it's the classic play. And typically they will retrace some of that move, where I could see maybe this thing in a couple of weeks, week or two, maybe tries to crawl its way back up to 240 or 250. And that's where I probably try to sell it. But that's, just the classic trade there is to buy the close because it's just indexers that are dumping it out. It's not selling off. There's probably not a good fundamentals behind it. I don't know anything about fundamentally with the company, but I just know when the deletes sell off, typically they bottom on that Friday, and then they usually retrace a little bit. So classic strategy if it works in this case, and obviously not everything always works, but we try to work the edge, and we try to work the statistics, and the statistics say that this stock can retrace potentially to 250 in the next week or two. That's
all right. We got coming out of the Google chat, Jar Jar. Wants to know if we could take a look at the banks, JPM specifically. We have been talking about the banks, the Deutsche Bank effect over the last couple of weeks. And now we have the stress test. Dennis, we were outlining a very important week for the financials. Why don't we move into that while I take a look at the technicals in JP Morgan?
I have no positions in the financials right now. I've talked bearishly on the show for the last few weeks on them. I remain with that bearish stance, but this week is kind of, up in the air because you have the stress test results coming out, Friday, Thursday night, trading on them Friday. Now, this week, you're probably going to hear some payouts, potential buybacks, dividends. Let's see what happens this week, because usually when the stocks come out, raise dividend, buyback, the stocks will go up. So it's a very important week for the banks. You would think, if other things being equal, that the banks actually might be a good buy here into the weakness here this morning, and then selling them if they announce some, buybacks or dividends on Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm not sure which days.
The second round, I think, is Wednesday.
Okay. So there you go. So Wednesday, you're going to get more information there. So I'm cautious on the banks here. I have no positions. Longer term, yes, they're cheap, but I think there's a lot of unknowns here still. Like I've said over the Deutsche Bank situation over in Europe, I'll keep reiterating, I don't have any banks, none U.S. banks in my investment portfolio. And there's a reason behind that, because I don't know the possibilities of, what a contagion happens if Deutsche Bank starts to fall under $10. I'll tell you, I think that if the Deutsche Bank does eventually start to fall under $10, which I think it's going to, I think all these banks start to make new lows. So that's why I don't want to own the banks, and I probably will be selling them into strength if we get a rally this week off the stress test stuff.
All right. Well, Dennis, I sent you, a couple notes on the top 10 components, top 11 components in the S&P, which stack up for pretty good size when you have J.P. Morgan, Berkshire Hathaway, and Bank of America. And you are coming up into some critical levels. I'll just give you one level here in J.P. Morgan, trading down 30 cents. I mean, sticking out like a sore thumb is 105. You had a 105.18 low on May 3rd. You had a 104.96 low on May 29th. You are trading at 105.30, just hanging just above it. So, Jar, I know you got a short on here. Be keeping a real close eye on that 104, that 105 level. Even if you go like 104.65, 104.70 or something like that. Be careful it comes back above, but you will not find a more important level this week in JP Morgan than 105. And then, Denny, I wish I would have been doing this last week. Bank of America, who was the seller at 29.50 area? You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 highs.
Right there.
Right there.
Wow.
That's an institution. Not 1 to 2.
But who's the buyer the last 5 days too, Joel? Look at the range. Is that not incredible?
Look at that. Trade the range.
The lows are all, channeling stock. Wasn't it channelingstocks.com back in the day? There you go. 29 to 29.50. Stock's been in the channel. It's breaking that lower end of the channel today, though.
Yeah, and the low for this issue was back the low since coming off. It went back and made a new high. But if you want another low, in the $28 handle, May 3rd, you had a 28.43 low. The Goldman Sachs chart. I mean, these charts just look horrible. So this would be the week. If the stress tests are good, the banks are turning around, I will take off my bear hat and I will put it here, and I will put my bull hat on, and I'd say 2,800, come and get me. But if their financials cannot get off the mat here,
I think they get off the mat. Can they stay off the mat?
Right.
That's the big thing for me. If they're raising the dividends and doing buybacks here, the stocks are probably going to rally. That's why I don't want to be sure. I think they can rally this week. The question is, do you sell that strength? I think you do. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping to get some strength there to actually initiate shorts. So I'm right now flat on the banks. I'm hoping for strength this week, some nice strength in these things to actually initiate shorts.
Full disclosure, I think in one of Lisa's portfolios, we have a little Flagstar Bank.
Okay, and I should say that too. I think I have maybe some. I don't have any of the majors.
Right.
I think I've got. It was a Tim Melvin pick actually. Got some trade by appointment only regional bank too in there. So I should say, and I do own. I should also say I also own some XL. I should say I do own some XLF. I've had in there for like 20 years. So, but as of like my regular stuff, I don't have any banks really. Not direct investments.
Dennis, thank you for another guest this week. I am going to have to ping Mr. Tim Melvin, and who would be a better guy to talk to ahead of the stress test results?
Yeah, Timmy knows his stuff. He knows the little guys anyways. He knows them.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's go to this M&A rumor here from the New York Post, Spencer. Give us the details because we got some movers in the food stocks.
Yeah, apparently Kraft Heinz and General Mills are sniffing around, potentially trying to acquire Campbell's Soup. This is from the New York Post. I don't think they gave any numbers in their report, but that's the rumor of the morning.
Campbell's big time rally here today was over 41. It's starting to give it back. I saw some Stifel comments come across the board just a little while ago saying that they think it's more maybe a potential some divesting some assets and not selling the entire company. So they're kind of, saying they're not going along with the whole New York Post article where there could be, a straight up acquisition here. It might just be selling off some assets. And since that, Stifel analyst commentary, Campbell's has come off the highs. It was trading well over 41. It's now trading at 40.5. So it's come down a bit here, but still getting a nice lift because New York Post, credible source, and it says Kraft Heinz and General Mills might be sniffing around.
Yeah, I mean, this is different as the stocks are coming out of, a major downturn, as opposed to last time when you had all the merger and M&A talk. The stocks were really, at frothy levels. So might give a little bit more credibility to it now since, the valuations and the amount of money needed for the takeover are much lower. Gap into a gap, that's always fun. Immediately, they took this to 41.50, and now you're a $1.20 off that level. So there's your target, 41.50. If we do go into rally mode, did have a high just above that in May. Coming back on the downside, just trying to hold on to those gains. We're at our lowest level, 40.26, since making that high, and 38.64 fills the gap here. So kind of hard to be chasing this. And if you're sitting on longs when this thing made a low at 32.63, kind of hard not to ring the register. So Campbell's Soup getting off the mat.
Stifel Lobster just actually posted a little bit from that Stifel analyst there, and it says,
"Thanks, Lobster."
Yeah, thanks, Lobster. Appreciate it. It's a Stifel analyst, Christopher Groh, stated in a note to investors, maybe, that's kind of funny, that he believes Campbell's will not pursue an outright sale and will instead focus on small divestitures in front of its deal for Schneider's Lance. So there you go. So that's what Stifel thinks.
These analysts, there's nothing these analysts love more than making puns. I'm convinced. I
like making fun. More than Joel?
Yeah,
Joel loves making fun.
I know, but if you read some of these titles, like the headlines on these notes, and like that maybe thing, like gosh, these analysts, they jump at any chance to make a good pun. I mean, not that we don't, but
we totally do. Yeah. I do Campbell's usually. If they have good earnings, I go good.
Okay, then there we go. Fine, but a good pun.
All right. We all do it.
Hey, Dennis, just let me take you quick back to the Russell Rebalance because we have someone new in the Google chat, and I always like to answer the new questions. Angel John Bacon, on the imbalances on Friday, were they more buy, sell, or mixed imbalances?
Mixed.
Yeah, mixed. That's what I thought.
A little bit sell, because you can even see the S&Ps went down. They were up. You know what? They were probably more geared to the sell side, I would say. So and you can actually see in the last 5 minutes, SPY collapses 60, 70 cents. And that has a lot to do with a lot of pressure and a lot of the individual stocks there in the last couple of minutes. There was a few stocks that had buy imbalances and went up, but nothing. The most pronounced one I would still say out of the big guns was Home Depot. That's what I really noticed. I was like, whoa, that is a huge sell imbalance. Stock started collapsing. Didn't quite go down. It actually at one time, 30 seconds below the close, it was indicating 188. And I was like, boom, boom, I'm throwing buy orders out there. LOC, limit on close. I'm trying to offset it. But then actually it wouldn't even take the LOC because the original imbalance, the regulatory imbalance wasn't to the sell side, it was to the buy side. So it flipped, and they don't let you do an LOC unless it's against the regulatory imbalance. So I remember actually I was trying to send LOCs, and I was like, oh, I can't. So then I had to send limit orders, and the key is you want to send your limit order, but you don't want to send it high that you actually get filled by through 198.5 things 199. it's coming through me. I'm filled before the close. I'm trying to get the close. So it's a little bit tricky when you can't send a limit on close order against it. But it was indicating with 30 seconds to go, I think 30, 45 seconds to go, it indicated like 188. And then that's hitting everybody's filters, that's running imbalance information, and they're like throwing offsetting orders. So providing liquidity to that big sell order, which I was doing as well, throwing out limits. Like I had it littered, at like 195, 196, 194, 193. I would have bought a lot of stock for what it was down to 188. And I would have been probably pretty happy about that, but it didn't do that. So it did go down. But it actually didn't even gap down on the close. It actually ran down ahead of the close and then actually just kind of closed flat. So it wasn't actually a gap down on the close. It just kind of ran down ahead of it. And then it kind of balanced off. And obviously the traders who were providing liquidity provided enough liquidity that it didn't go down.
Angel John Bacon is a former Bright trader, and she used to trade with Darren Broner. So I think it's a she because Angels. Yeah. So big shout out to all the Bright traders that contribute to the show. We appreciate it. We know you guys are in there trying to keep the markets in line with Dennis. But any more questions, Angel?
Just doing our job, providing liquidity to these big sellers.
Yeah.
Close.
So, Dennis, would you have gotten any trouble if it would have closed at 188?
Oh, I would have been laughing, I think. If it would have gapped down to 188, I would have been filled on a lot of stock. And I think it would be right back up at 193, 194 in a hurry. We saw this happen. I talked about this trade. It wasn't off the Russell Rebalance, but it was off something. Remember that UNH that I had? Where was it, Joel? Go back to... It was 219. It was just a random day. It wasn't even a third fight. It was a random day. And it was this huge sell imbalances. And I remember I did the show on it. It was 4 stocks I got. It was I keep trying to remember. I remember UNH gapping down 6 points on the close. And I bought it 6 points down. And boom, I could literally sell it 30 seconds later, 5 points up after hours. So it was boom, 5 points. It was a sweet trade. I think it was Citigroup was another one I think in there. I can't remember when that was. It was 6 months ago though. But we talked about it on the show. And I mean, these moves on the closing imbalances usually do come back. They do. They usually, at least some of it. Sometimes if the stock gaps down 5 points, come back 3. So because it's just people say, no, I'll buy that all day down 5 points. And so they're coming in, buy it down 4 or 3, and it comes back a bit. It usually doesn't get it all back right away, but it usually gets a bulk of the move back when they gap down on the close. These didn't really gap down. Home Depot didn't really gap down. It ran down ahead of it. So I don't know what that means, but I just know, and I am long a little bit of Home Depot still, that usually these moves tend to retrace themselves a bit.
Okay. Anything going on with the rest of the food stocks?
Well, no, not really. I mean, we talked about Kraft Heinz and GIS. Kraft Heinz up slightly here. GIS is flat. Campbell's is the play here. We don't know if it's an outright or if it's Stiefel, what they're saying, just going to divest it. Just watch your headlines. If you're short the thing, be careful because there's a rumor out there that could get acquired. It go for $45. The only thing I will say is the last time we had a lot of M&A rumors was back when the food stocks. We got to go back.
It was Mondelez and Hershey, right? That was the big one.
Remember all that happened in that saga with Mondelez and Hershey's gapped up that one day from $92 to $118 because Mondelez was going to buy them. That's back in 2016. That never happened. And if you look at Hershey's now, it's significantly lower. So a lot of times when you get these M&A rumors in food, sometimes a good idea to ring the register. If you got Campbell's Soup, the stock is up a long ways from where it was just 2 weeks ago. We were $32, now we're $41. We're coming back into an area where the stock has a lot of memory, where it traded a lot, March, April, May, all around that 40. It's filled the gap here now. I mean, if the rumors are true and the thing goes off the board, maybe you can make some money. But I'll tell you, if it's not true, it could start leaking here again. So if I was long Campbell's, I think I would ring the register on this nice move here this morning.
And KHC, Kraft Heinz, maybe rumored to be one of the pursuers in that. That's having a nice move here, Dennis. That got a spike in. Wow. This morning we traded up to 64.19, but we're quickly back down. I'll just traders, if anybody's interested here, you have 3 highs right at the 63.35 level. So above that, we are trading above that. So another potential leg up, which is good for me.
Just be careful on the leg up because this is the potential acquirer. And usually if they acquire something, they actually get hit. So I know it's trading up here this morning, but I'm not that big of a believer here in let's buy Kraft Heinz trading up when they're the potential bidder. So
Right.
I'm talking against my book here. I do own Kraft Heinz, but I think if you're buying up here now, I think you're chasing too. I think all these food stocks, if you're buying them now, I think you're late to the party. I think, besides Hershey's, which really hasn't moved much, Kraft Heinz, Mondelez, look at Mondelez. I mean, it's 37, now it's 42. I mean, these are pretty sizable moves for these old food stocks that don't move much. Campbell's is a big move. I think you're late to the party here now.
Kellogg has been getting off the mat. That traded under $58. Kellogg traded down to $56.40. Now back up an upper 60 handle. Friday's high was a nice high. Keep an eye on that. 67.71 was a 67.41 close. Tyson Chicken, how are they doing? They're not really reacting this, but they've had a nice little rally too. Who else falls into our food stock category?
We've kind of exhausted.
We got them?
Like Conagra, there's a few out there. Kroger got downgraded today. We know it had the huge day off earnings. It rallied and then had the 2-day move and followed through. Getting downgraded this morning by Spencer. You got that? Kroger downgraded by
Saw it. Yeah, that's pivotal to hold.
So it's traded down a little bit because it's downgraded, but again, there's probably some people buyers below here just because they're probably caught short,
Right.
especially after the earnings. So I don't know if this is one that's going to collapse. I'd probably be more of a buyer of the pullback on Kroger than a seller here. But definitely some action here in the food stocks this morning.
Yeah, keep a close eye on Friday's low. We are trading right near that level. We're trading $8.95. That's down 74 cents. Friday's low was $8.81. The reason that's very important to me is because you had the close on earnings day at $8.73, so you had some nice confluence there. But Thursday's low is way down at $27.75, and then you get a gap area. So if you're buying Friday's low, just be cognizant here. Not a lot of support for about a stick in it, and a lot of people are short looking for a pullback as well. Good levels here in Kroger.
Carnival Cruise Lines reported earnings. Did we get the number here yet? They're due to report this morning.
Yeah, I hadn't looked in a while. I don't think they came through yet. I'm not
They
sure.
are on schedule here this morning.
Yes, they're on the calendar. I haven't seen it come through. Let me check a different news.
Chad, if you do see the
PR wire,
Carnival Cruise Lines, I haven't. Sometimes it's later. Sometimes it's 9 o'clock.
Checking the PR wire, and I don't see it across the PR.
Okay, it may be 9 o'clock. I can remember Carnival Cruise is always a little bit late in the morning, so that might be late. So we'll come back to it. If they report, we'll be back to it. We're gonna get Sean Udall here in 2 minutes here, so stick with us. I just want to quickly talk before we get to Sean. We're gonna start talking tech here, and we'll obviously continue that conversation with Sean here. But let's talk about the Momos, the Sogos, the DBXs, the IQs, which have epically collapsed here now. We've been talking bearish on them for the last couple of days. I thought they topped out 3 days ago. I've said that on the show the last 3 days. That is what occurred. So again, my hot streak continues here. HUYA was 50. It's now 34. IQ was 45. It's now 34. It's the last $11. Nothing's collapsed worse than DBX. DBX got up there, 42, 43 bucks, put a couple tops in the same area, and Kaplooey, it's almost given it all back. I will tell you on these, I'm starting to get interested. If they come back from the area where they came from, in IQ and HUI are a long ways away from that. But the Sogo, here you are. It's one that was 15 bucks. It broke out from 10. It's 11 bucks here right now. If it comes back near 10, I think it could bounce off there the first time, and I might play it for a bounce play. So I like Sogo if it gets all the way back down to 10, SOGO. DBX, same story. If it broke out from 32. If it can get back to 32, I might play for a bounce as well. So these things have sold off pretty hard the last 4 days. I think the selling is getting exhausted here now. I think they actually could turn around here, depending on what the overall market does here too. But I just, the old classic play where, old resistance becomes new support. That's what I'm playing on these things.
And I don't want to talk about IQ. So let's
You had puts and you covered them too soon.
Yeah.
Scalper blood. Stop with the scalper blood. You squeeze that out of you. I have the same problem, Joel.
And I had
scalper blood too.
I had July's too. There was no reason to get out of that trade. I had July 35s. Well, I started buying them a little bit early, but anyways, so we'll look. There's always another good setup in the horizon. Just listen to Ben Zinga's pre-market prep show. Mark Holmer.
I'm bringing on Sean right now.
You bringing on Sean?
Yep,
okay.
Bringing on Sean.
Okay.
Let's see if he answers.
He will.
Early out there. He always answers, though.
Good morning, Benzinga.
Good morning, Sean Udall. How you doing on this Monday morning? Did you have a good weekend?
I did. How about you guys?
Oh, always. Yeah, nice weekend here in the Motor City. Well, I want to get you on specifically. You come up with different theses on the market every once in a while. And what's your current thesis on the market?
I'm mega bearish right now. So, I mean, if you're, if you don't want me to, hear doom and gloom or hear doom and gloom from me, then you probably should get somebody else on.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Because I've been bearish for 3 days, Sean. So I have somebody that's actually with me here because CNBC has been fighting me here. I stay bearish too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just so for clarity, this is my third bearish call of the year, and I'm not saying we need. Just to be clear, I'm not saying we need 20% down, although we're getting to the point where I could see a move like that. I could see a bigger move and a more dangerous downside move that really, really hammers people. It's getting more likely, but I think we at least need, and I was messaging Joel that we need at least 500 to 800 on the NASDAQ down again. And this time we could go deeper. We could go like 900, 1100, 1300 points, something like that. It's kind of what I'm thinking. Frothy. Yeah, by the way, there's still longs. I mean, I have more cash than I've had in years. I have way more. I have the most shorts I've had since the spring of 2014. But I still have plenty of longs because there's still names that they're still really as stupidly expensive as some stocks are. Some stocks are really stupidly cheap. So there's still very good longs to have, but anything FANG, anything like FANG, anything like Adobe, anything like Red Hat, anything like Autodesk, this stuff really is. It's probably more expensive than the big blow off we had in the spring of 2014. But that's the closest parallel. Like I don't think we're 99. I think we're spring of 2014.
All right,
Talk about your shorts. Talk about your shorts.
I wish I was short Red Hat, but they're all things like Red Hat. Probably the easiest thing, my biggest hedge right now, which is a short I think I'll make pretty good money on, is IGV. IGV is an ETF, and its largest position is Adobe. So basically, you might as well call it cloud software because that's pretty much what the top 10 holdings are. And the top 10 holdings I think are like 50 or 60% of the fund, and maybe not that big, but everything is in it is like that. So put it this way: there's only one name in their top 10 that I actually wouldn't be short, but I don't like the name, and I think it could go down. Is Oracle. But Oracle is kind of in that boring, go nowhere basket. Probably not very dangerous, but probably not much upside. So I wouldn't short Adobe or Oracle, but every single like 9 other stocks in that top 10 list, I would be very comfortable being short.
And what kind of time frame are you looking at for this? Are you, nothing's always as immediately when you want it. How long do you think this is going to take to materialize?
Well, you guys kind of know, I'm less time frame dependent than most people, but when I get stuff right, the trade usually starts working pretty quickly. So that's within days or weeks, sometimes hours. Hey, if the NASDAQ goes, blows through 9,000 or 9,200 or 9,500, I'm probably wrong, and I probably cut it down in size. But this might be a trade I might just leave on because I just don't think there's that much risk of IGV going up 20 or 30 or 40%. And frankly, so this is a good lesson in pair trading. So let's say the IGV goes up 30%. I probably don't mind being shorted because that means my longs will have gone up 50 to 100 or 300%. Honestly, like a name like Groupon is really, really beaten up and cheap and has good growth and has had good earnings reports. Well, Groupon is really, really undervalued relative to stuff like this. So if they can manage to squeeze another 25% upside out of like the FANG names, I think a Groupon could double or triple. So that's kind of how I view this right now. But as far as this particular instrument itself, it's starting to work now. My first short was 182, and I added more to it. And even on my first short, I'm probably going to be close to break even by today. So And I don't think I was ever down more than like 3 or 4%, maybe. I think 4% at the most on this.
What about the longs? So you talk the FANG names and some of that higher growth stuff. What do you like long group besides Groupon?
I think it's a time you can buy like junk stocks. Now, when I say junk stocks, though, my definition of a junk stock is a stock that's disliked. It doesn't mean it's low quality. I think other people would say, oh, you buy a penny stock that's like a Bitcoin penny stock or something. So to me, I just named one, Groupon. Pandora, I'm up about 80% on Pandora from where I bought it, or where I added to it. Something like a Finisar, something like FireEye. FireEye has been, incredibly maligned. Now, FireEye is just a strange name because really, given the results they've had the last few quarters, this is just one of these weird ones where the stock probably should have done better. Cloudera is another one. Hortonworks is another one. Hortonworks is interesting because it's not really a dislike name. The stock's done okay, but it's just really, really undervalued. It's I always like to my subscribers, I always describe this because sometimes they have a hard time picturing this. But if you were to value Hortonworks at the same value of as, let's say, Adobe, I think Hortonworks would have to go up like 300 to 350% to be as expensive. And that's, what is that, a 4.5 bagger? So Hortonworks would basically have to go up fourfold to be as expensive as Adobe is. So, things like that. There's some biotech names I like too. I don't know how much time we have, but
I like you giving names. This is great.
I like fiber optic names. That's probably my favorite subsector of tech. There's a few, I still like CyberArk a lot. FireEye is probably the most maligned security name I can find. The biotechs are a little different because you can't say they're cheap on relative metrics because a lot of them don't have revenues yet. But, you can kind of take a guess in the pipeline and things like so. Things like DVAX, that's had a huge pull. But in fact, that went up a lot on good news. I actually played that run. I think I bought it like around 8. So it spiked. Then it went all the way up to 26. I was probably selling at 18. And then now it's I think it's had about a $10 pullback off of those post good news highs. That's a pretty good pullback. Sometimes biotechs work. My favorite biotech right now is ACAD. ACAD actually has an approved drug. It has a ramping revenue pipeline. It has, in fact, I think it has like 200% revenue growth or something. But yet the analysts don't like it. They're like, oh, we expected more growth, so they're missing our estimates. So therefore, we don't like it. So we were willing to justify a $50 ACAD before the drug was approved. But now that the drug is approved, the stock's trading where it should be at 16. Again, these guys, a lot of them don't know how to run money. They just know how to move volume on stock. So, but no, that's a really interesting name. And that, if you guys remember Relepsa traded just like this. So Relepsa was a hot. They got bought out. It was RYLP, I believe, okay, but they got bought out. But so Relepsa, I think, was $40, $50, $60 stock pre-approval. Okay, post-approval, drug did fine. Probably didn't do as well as estimates. Stock went down to like 11 or 15 or something. So if you want to give me a biotech post-approval at 1/3 the price it traded peak, and the approval's good and the growth is good and that there's still a pipeline after the approval, I'll usually take a shot at things like that.
Okay, what about some of the FANG stocks here? Whichever ones you want to use, which is your top choice to pick on in that. I was looking at the Apple chart over the weekend, and man, it had that huge run after earnings, and boy, the number I had on the downside was 183.45 because you really get into a lot of air once you take that out. That's what we're currently trading now. So talk about Apple and some of the other factors.
I actually think you could be short Apple. And, as you guys know, at one point, I was probably one of the most bullish people on Apple on the planet. And, Apple's a tougher short just because, with shorts, I like to feel like I like to feel like a thing's going to move enough to make the risk of the short pay off. But the problem with Apple is I have a hard time seeing this thing go down to like Adobe could get cut in half. right? In fact, Adobe could get cut in half and it wouldn't be a cheap stock. I mean, that's sort of what I like. Now, I think from a trading, the way you guys do it, Apple is a good short because, I mean, you could clip this thing down to 160 in a hurry. But, you know, would I be a buyer of it at 160? I could. I can tell you exactly where I would buy. I'd buy it at 145 in a heartbeat. But that's a pretty big drop. I mean,
that's a huge drop. Yep. And what about Microsoft?
I think it's a great short if you're a tactician who likes to hold things. It's very overvalued here. It's a dull. You know, that's one where you could almost play like a rollover. Like, so in other words, Microsoft probably won't accelerate to the downside until people have a reason to get scared. So where's the point where people start getting scared and saying, get me out of Microsoft? I'm probably going to say it's 10 lower, maybe 15 points lower. It's probably a plodding short until then.
I don't. I mean, I know I would look a little bit shorter term here, but when I see 3 out of the last 5 lows in the same area at 99.50 under the triple digits, that's going to be my trigger for a potential short in Microsoft if it takes out that 99.50 because you had.
I mean, put it this way: bottom of the cloud formation I use, bottom of the cloud's 92. It could make a fast trip to 92. So I think you're getting to kind of my point, right? You have to identify your time frame and say, look, hey, am I looking at making 10 points on something in days to weeks? Or am I looking at making 100 or a 50% down move or a 80% down move over 3 or 4 quarters or 5 quarters or something? So, hey, they all work, right? I mean, I'm doing some of these. Here's one I shorted. I'm sorry to get you off the train, but Zscaler. And I specifically wanted to bring this up when you said I would be on. So I shorted this. I did
symbol on Zscaler.
Sorry, ZS. Okay. Recent IPO, so I thought you guys would know it.
We do trade those.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, this. So. By the way, I was long this before the print. I was thrilled to sell it at 36 or something, maybe 37. I literally couldn't believe when I saw this thing clip in 42.50. I couldn't believe it, so I just shorted it, and so I'll short it. Every time this thing goes 40, 41, I'll short it. I literally have no fear of losing much money on a short in this thing at that price and higher.
What about all these high flying IPOs? Because we actually, I did really well with these. I played them all the way up, and then I was actually playing the short side on the way down the last 3 days.
And this is just one of like 3 or 4 of them. I've kind of done the same thing on.
You know,
haven't done IQ. I did Pivotal. I was long and then short Pivotal. I was long and then short ZUO.
Yeah.
IQ. There's another one. Is it Hua? HUYA?
Yeah. That was kind of the leader, and it started to go down 4 days ago, and it's brought them all down with it.
There you go. So now, I mean, here's what's funny. I mean, how low do these have to go to kind of be where they should be? I mean, I don't know, right?
Do you have you can't get fundamental numbers for these things?
No, dude, I can't value this.
I mean, the fundamental numbers, can you believe them?
Oh yeah, I can't value IQ or I can't value Hua very well. I've tried, but I mean, like ZS though is 26 times sales, or I mean it's 26 times next year. Again, Hortonworks and Cloudera are 4 times next year. So. With not that dissimilar growth, by the way. I mean, Hortonworks is like a 40% grower. Zscaler is a 60% grower. Hortonworks 4 times next year's sales, man, looks pretty good because it probably should be trading at 8 to 9 to 10 times sales. And ZS is trading 26. I mean, so but see, you got to look at the charts. I mean, those things give you signposts. But yeah, there's somewhere that we're missing. But I just key on a few names. Zscaler in particular was really interesting to me because I just don't think it's the next Palo Alto Networks. It might be a pretty good company. I think they have pretty good technology. They have a good pipeline. And if they were at 10 or 12 times sales, I'd probably be saying, hey guys, you should look at the Zscaler long. But it's 26 times sales.
Hey, Sean, let me interrupt you. Interrupt you here. Out of the Google YouTube chat. How about Tesla? And I don't want to talk about Tesla either, but you can talk about Tesla here. Trading down again at $1.12 here is 332.51. Any thoughts on Tesla?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cult concept stock, and I think it's a better short than a long. I'm not short. This some names are harder until they give you a signal. A name that killed people trying to short it early was CMG. But if you just waited on CMG until there was some bad news, like people getting sick, the stock didn't really go down a ton. Like, people remember that name wrong. They remember, oh yeah, once people started getting sick, the stock got cut in half. That's not really true. That stock hung on for like 6 months. Forever. He knows. But if that's where you waited and that's where you started shorting it, you did really well. And there wasn't much upside left anymore. It might have persisted and it might have been frustrating because it didn't gap down 200 like everybody wanted it to. But if you stayed short, you didn't lose. You made good money on the shorts. So I kind of think maybe Tesla, you almost have to wait. You almost have to wait for somebody to see the chinks in the armor that I think some of the smart people see there. But this one's a tougher short. Frankly, Amazon's a tough short too.
Just so love.
It is. It's a tough, but there will probably be a time where that will be an easier short. I think Microsoft, Apple, FANG, non-Amazon FANGs, again, cloud. Here's why I like shorting cloud in general, high-priced cloud stocks, is because they do move together. So what you get, like when Red Hat cracked, that opened the door for a lot of these shorts to start working. Where the shorts were hard before, the Red Hat is, and by the way, I don't think Red Hat's done going down. I mean, that Red Hat was another one. Red Hat could drop 35 to 40% off the high and still not be a cheap stock. So I'd rather short something that's going to catch it. Like Apple may catch part of that move if the market accelerates to the downside. I mean, heck, the NASDAQ could drop 700 points. Tesla should go down, but it might not. So it's just a tough one until there's some kind of clear signal. I'm sorry I can't give you a more precise answer. It's just,
okay.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. No, it's a tough one. Well, Sean, I want you to know you're getting plenty of love here out of both of our chats, requesting you coming on every week. Maybe we can do that in our new format. But really appreciate having you on, Sean Udall of Quantum Tech Strategies, giving us some buys and some sells. So we'll keep an eye on the market, Sean. Great talking to you as always, and we'll get you on again next week.
Hey, I'm staying short till I see at least 800 NASDAQs lower. So or something changes radically. Thanks, guys.
All right, S&P futures.
We found a bear.
Yeah, we found a bear. Where is there a bear? Down. But you know what though? He has his thesis, he has his entries, he has his exits, also, I mean, he's still probably a much more long portfolio, but he likes to try and call turns in the market. S&P's, like I said, just hanging out here in a 27.40 handle, 27.45.50. See if we can get off the mat with the rally. Going back to the upgrades and downgrades, and Dennis, I think you mentioned it on the pre-market show. First Solar getting off the mat here, up $1.75. Who gave it the upgrade?
It was Bank of America.
Wow.
With the upgrade on First Solar, and I don't have a price target or anything like that, but just upgrade to buy, I believe.
Yeah, I saw buy too. So fighting Gordon Johnson, fighting Goldman Sachs, fighting everybody who downgraded it there in the 3-4 days where it got like 4 downgrades in 3 days. I had the buy order in there sitting to buy it just above 50. I don't know if I would have got down. It got down to 50.23. I can't remember where I had the buy order. This was in my long-term investment account. I think I had it around there, though. So I think I probably would have got done, but I got scared out. We had Gordon Johnson on the show. He downgraded to sell. I got scared away. I canceled it because Gordo seems to know his stuff very well when it comes to the solar stocks. So he got bearish. I was like, I'm not buying if Gordo is bearish. But, it's come back up here. So I'm kind of, regretting canceling that order because I would be up probably 4 points in it now. It's coming back. That 50 held. And that's, that was my kind of target. I thought it could come back to 50. Playing the same thing. That's where it broke out from originally back in October of 2017. So I was playing, where it breaks out from, when it comes back to revisit that level for the first time, sometimes it bounces at that level, and that's kind of how I was playing it, and it would have worked in this case. But yeah, so it's off to the races. I'm not chasing it here, but it's showing some life.
It is showing some life. High of the pre-market sessions, 54.75, and you got a bunch of highs, 47.59. I see one at 55. So I think over 55 would clarify a little bit more of a breakout to the upside. If you are purchasing it here for a longer term play, you surely have a level to lean on here at that 50-23 low. So depending on your risk reward ratio, if you're looking for a bigger upside move, of over 6, 8, 10 points is a potential area to stop out at. And it just looks okay here. It doesn't. It's hanging up near the highs of the pre-market session. So if it's going down, it doesn't want to go down right yet.
55 is big for this.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it kind of got up there and it kissed it a couple times. Say 55. That's where it needs to get over, and then it start to look. But it's went down so hard. It's so hard to just come right back up through that area, just simply because there's a lot of people underwater in this thing. So that's why you're kind of fighting it here. You're fighting the tape if you are buying it here. Not saying it can't go up, but I'm saying it's going to be a little bit of a battle. It's not going to be smooth sailing to 65.
Yeah. Out of the Google chat, Big Sky Crypto is looking at Sonic for a potential short. And
holy cow, is that stock hot? These restaurant stocks, Peter was saying it earlier. Like DRI, like they're just like long. They want to buy every restaurant stock in the world here right now. I mean, this looks like if this was in my long-term investment portfolio, I'd sell it. Now, it's so hard. This is a classic Nick Shaheen. This is too high to kind of chase here now, but maybe too hot to short. Wait for a red candle. Wait for that whoosh, that I was talking about when I, started looking at the sell side of, the IQs and the other ones. Wait for that day where you get this thing falls like 5-6% a day on no news. And then, then you maybe have an identifiable top in there. But it's just a slow, steady climb here still. So it's hard. I think, you could potentially, maybe it was a 36 high there from the other day, but you're fighting the tape here too. I'd like to see a nice red candle before I start getting interested in the short side here.
All-time high on that is 36.73. We're trading up 58 cents in the pre-market on that, a little bit of volume here. So, see what happens. See if it makes a new all-time high here at 36.73. Also, if you get a great number, there's just no resistance. If they like the number, it could just blast off. And this thing, it closed at 26.61 on earlier this month. It's over $10 higher. So impressive streak for Sonic. And then Dennis, AMC earnings tomorrow. Is he talking?
I saw AMC or AMCX.
He has AMC.
Yeah, I'm AMCX. That's the one that I've been playing. Okay. So I don't know anything about AMC.
Yeah,
that's a movie theater company, but
a lot of resistance at 17.5, and it's had a nice run up. I was trading below yesterday's low, so you might be seeing a little profit taking in this one. 858, Dennis. Did we cover all of the?
Yeah, Intel got downgraded to Mira, so that's a big one. INTC is taking some heat. That looks ugly. I mean, these tech stocks, Sean's right. These tech stocks are really starting to look ugly here now. Chasing them a bit here now. I mean, the sell was when we were talking on the show on Friday, when I said I was skeptical about the rally. I mean, everything opened at the highs, at least from the tech stocks on Friday. Amazon opened up at $17.40, straight down. You had Square open up at $68, straight down. A lot of your other ones opened up on the day, straight down. Some of those Momo plays. I mean, that was the play, was selling the open on Friday. Now you're kind of chasing them a little bit here more. You look at Micron here, still owning my invest portfolio. It's breaking down below 57, below 56 now, trading 55. I mean, I still like Micron from the valuation perspective, but holy cow, a lot of these tech stock charts do not look good whatsoever here now. They all looked fine 3 days ago. They all kind of are starting to look broken here now. So I'm kind of on the same side with Sean to a certain extent, except the fact that they've kind of moved a little bit here now. I'd love a little relief rally here in some of these things. Like, not the Squares. This hasn't even moved yet. I mean, it's still trading 64.50. Yeah, it's $4 off the highs, but there's a lot of meat on that bone there. But some of the other ones have come down somewhat, so I like the short side. I still like selling the rips here. I just don't ever like selling stocks when they're down because I feel like you're selling the whole, and then you get a bounce and you're already taking heat. I like basically when I'm trading, I'm selling rips or buying dips. Not doing both. It depends on my feel. So if I like the market bullish, I'm buying the dips. If I like the market bearish, I'm selling the rips. And that was a rip you got Friday morning. That was a gift, I think. We're coming in here now. I think as you get more rallies, I think some of these stocks are to be sold.
Just for Intel, for our Intel traders, it did have a pair of lows at 51.90. That was going to be my focus level in Intel for the week. Now we've broken that, so I don't necessarily want to short it at 51.30. But if this gets back up near 52, I expect some major resistance. To break down the S&P 500 index futures going into the open, your pre-market low of 27.39.25. That's just above the low from last week. And the low from last week was 27.35.75. So I am not going to press any short positions until we take out that 27.35.75. And in fact, if we, start to, rally or within the first half hour, if we don't take out that pre-market low of 27.39.25, you could, your buy your dippers could just come back in this, maybe take it up to mid-range at the 27.50 area. Thanks to Sean Udall for coming on the show. Spencer, what's on the docket for Tuesday?
Well, I just want to say that we are still waiting on the Carnival earnings. The other ratings that caught my eye, there was an upgrade from Raymond James to Alarm.com, upgraded to strong buy from outperform to strong buy there. Goldman upgrading Borg Warner this morning from neutral to buy, and Morgan Stanley upgrading Sienna equal weight to overweight there. We mentioned a couple of downgrades. The one I wanted to mention besides the Intel and just the Intel one was we mentioned Kroger too, but Estee Lauder also catching a downgrade from Morgan Stanley to equal weight. That's going to be it for our show today, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope you liked hearing from Sean. If you want to catch our podcast, you can do so. iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Google Play if you have Android. Hope you guys have had a good weekend and you have a good rest of your day, and we will see you folks on Tuesday.